Hey, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. And today I'm reviewing the expansion for Lost Ruins of Arnak Expedition Leaders, which I don't have the box for because I've already incorporated it into my base game and gotten rid of the box. So, yeah, that. But in any case, Expedition Leaders is the long-awaited, and long is relative because it's still a new game, but the awaited expansion for Lost Ruins of Arnak, bringing you a bunch of new things that I'm going to go into here, covering what new stuff is added, my general thoughts and impressions around those new things, is this an essential expansion to pick up or not, and then my final thoughts as far as how it impacts my general opinion of Lost Ruins of Arnak, which frankly was already high, and we'll see where it can go from there. So, what does this expansion add? It adds a few new things. Starting off with the most basic is going to be more cards for the artifact and items deck over here. You're just going to have an assortment of new cards that are being added to the game. So if you wanted more card variety, you have more card variety. To be clear, this is not all the new cards you're getting. This is all the cards. I just have them all shuffled together and I'm not really separating them out. But there's a bunch of new cards, new artifacts, new items being added to the decks. Secondly, from there, you're going to have new research tracks. This double-sided research track, the monkey and the lizard track over here, are going to give you more research tracks to the game, basically giving you more variety as far as how to move up those research tracks as you move your 2 tokens up the track, trying to gather the various bonuses. There's some small rules and changes to some of the small aspects, nothing overwhelming, all very simple to go into, but it gives you more variety if you are getting a little bit bored of that simple, standard, same progression game after game. So this does give you 2 new tracks. It's worth noting before we go further that these tracks, while any of these things can kind of be used independently, these tracks are somewhat balanced around the new leaders. The new leaders give you more things to do, and the new tracks are a little harder to go up, so it's going to be a little tougher to move up those tracks if you're not using the new leaders. You could play it that way, but it's not the way the game is officially designed. Past that, and speaking of which, we have the new leaders. We have new leaders being added to the game. These leaders are going to be the biggest change, and so before we dive into those, let me just briefly touch upon, we also have this new moon staff that lets you get rid of an extra card every single round. If you want more card variety showing up, you'll be removing 2 cards on each side of the staff instead of 1. Just more card variety being entered into the system in case players aren't purchasing those cards and you're finding the markets are getting a little stale or samey. Which brings us to the new leaders, which, like the expansion name is called, Expedition Leaders. This is easily the biggest change added to the game. The research track is a big deal. More cards is great for the variety, but these leaders are going to be the biggest change to your Lost Ruins of Arnak experience, as every single leader is basically a character that one player will take. You'll grab a character and you'll be utilizing their unique rules and their unique starting deck. Each character is going to have a change to the starting deck. You're going to have your own cards that adjust or play around your leader strengths, helping them do the various things that will show up on their boards. And let's go through how those leaders operate. Very high level. I'm not going to every little detail on the rules, just giving you a general idea of how they act. The general idea, before you get into each individual one, is the fact that they all let you do more in the game. Which, going back to the research track aspects, means if you're playing with the new leaders and you're not playing with the new research tracks, then you'll find it a little easier to move up the research tracks in the base game, which might be something you want to do. You'll be able to get a little higher, get more stuff done. That'll all be helpful there. So, you get to do more. That's the basic idea. Let's go ahead and dive into those new leaders one at a time, starting off with the captain. The captain's going to give you an extra archaeologist. That's the basic idea of what the captain's doing. Again, I'm not going to every little rules. I will say that all the leaders generally have a new way you can cash in those tokens over there to activate their own unique ability, but the captain's going to add an extra archaeologist to your board, giving you just more placements you can take every single turn, which is great, because you go from 2 archaeologists to 3. From there, we have the falconer. The falconer is going to give you a falcon token that's going to be moving up these tracks. Every round it's going to move up on its own, and at any point you can pull it back to effectively take the bonus it's up to. But along with that, there are various ways. There are various ways that you'll be able to move that falcon up further, so you're getting 1 free movement a turn, but you can spend or do different things to get extra movements and then cash it back for the bonus. So again, a little extra being done. From there we have the Baroness. The Baroness is effectively going to be giving you more money and more ways to use your item cards quickly. One of the cards she has in her starting deck is a card that will be in her hand every single turn, and once per turn, an item that you buy, you can cash it in right away. You can use that item, it goes to your hand instead of your deck, and you can use it right away, which basically means you have a lot more freedom to start rotating on things to get your engine up and running because you can do that. Additionally, you'll have extra money coming in every single round, so there's a little bit of a money game going on, as well as that instant use of items. From there we have the professor. The professor is going to be giving you tablets. Sorry, the professor is giving you tablets, compasses. No, wrong character. That's why I'm doing this. Here we go. Here's the professor. The Professor basically gives you their own unique artifact deck. Basically what you're going to have is you're going to have 3 separate artifacts that go into your own private pool. You can utilize, you can buy those artifacts as you want, and then once per game when you've bought them all, if you've bought them all, you can refresh that pool. So it gives you your own private pool of artifacts that only you have access to. In addition, it's giving you tablets and compasses that you can use to buy those artifacts. So basically he likes delving into the artifact world, trying to get more done with artifacts as you go through the game, which brings us to the Explorer. The Explorer is almost the opposite of the Captain. The Explorer is going to take away one of your Adventurer tokens, one of your Archaeologists. So you'll have one fewer Archaeologist in the game, but instead of that, the Explorer makes use of snack tokens, effectively, reusable snack tokens, where you can pay the cost on a snack token to keep moving and reusing your single Archaeologist. So while you have fewer people in the game, you can pay to use that one person again and again and again, limited, but you'll be able to start with a game with 2, you'll get a third one as you go through it, and that will basically let you do more in the game, while also adding an interesting element to the game that you usually won't see otherwise, which is these spots are freeing up a lot more frequently. The game already gives you opportunities or ways to utilize spots that have been taken, but this gives you even further as you hop from location to location, freeing up spots that you can't go back to because you'll leave your snack token there, but other players can take advantage of. And finally, we have the Mystic, which is possibly the most interesting to play, although leans heavily into my personal playstyle because it takes advantage of weeding your deck. Basically, the Mystic is going to live off fear. You're going to have these rituals that use fear in those rituals, and so you have these on one of your effects over here, as well as the cards in your hand, can be spent as an action to activate a ritual. When you activate a ritual, you're going to remove fear cards from your personal pile, but you have to get them there first. So basically, as you weed your deck, as you clear fear from your deck, you put it down to your personal pile, and then you can activate a ritual to remove 2, 3, or 4 fear cards to get a benefit from that. Now, first of all, you'll be getting fear into your hand every single turn, so there's a little more fear entering your pile to begin with. But additionally, it means you can lean heavily into strategies that involve taking fear more often in order to then weed it from your deck and cash it in for rituals. Lots of options there as far as the Mystic goes. And those are the new Expedition Leaders. Each one of them gives you some way to change the core game, some way that lets you do more things as you play through it, and each one in different ways, going from the simplest one, the Captain, all the way to possibly the most complicated, the Mystic, gives you ways to mess with the game state and get more done in Lost Ruins of Arnak. Which brings me to my general impressions of the game, and starting off with what I like, which is, I mean, it's all good. Every single thing here is good. There's nothing here that's not good. I'll skip to what I don't like section. The what I don't like section is there's nothing I don't like about this expansion. For you, there's a little bit of rules overhead, I guess. It's a fairly quick rulebook to get into. But yes, there are additional rules. Yes, you'll have to learn these characters if you want. Although, honestly, they're quick and easy enough to learn that I don't even think you need to learn them all. I think you could have someone pick a character and then just read the rules for that character. It's a single sheet. It'll take you an extra 5 minutes, which is, I mean, ideally you know the characters. But if you don't, it's not that big a blocker. You can get the game up and running without having to worry about any of that. More items, more artifacts. I mean, I've been asking for more items and artifacts since I first got into Lost Ruins of Arnak, so this is just straight up a good thing. It's more variety. In fact, the biggest complaint I'd have is that there's not more items and artifacts. I'd love more cards and whatever additional expansions they want to have. Sure, that's my biggest complaint. But more items and artifacts gives you more variety, giving each player a starting deck and an expedition leader that customizes their playstyle and lets them do more. Again, it's a good thing. My biggest complaint against Lost Ruins of Arnak is I always kind of felt like I wanted one more round to the game. It's something I never actually ended up doing because you could just theoretically add a round to the game and just call it a day. It's no major changes. I never ended up doing this because I always liked the game enough as it was, but this gives you that additional bit you can get done, to the point that I am totally fine. I like playing with the new artifact tracks, the new research tracks over here. I like playing with those, but I'm also totally fine playing with the base game because I do get to power up those tracks and feel like I'm getting more done. So this game just gives you more stuff to get done across the board, lots of things. I mean, this Moonstaff is, I guess, the only thing I haven't bothered using. I've never really felt that need for additional variety. I find the artifact tracks and the item tracks are being used and turned over enough that I've never felt the need for this, but I mean, it doesn't hurt. It's a piece that goes in my game. It's fine. But overall, everything here just further adds to my experience of Lost Ruins of Arnak. Should you get this expansion? Well, I mean, before I get to my final thoughts, as far as whether you should get this expansion, if you like Lost Ruins of Arnak, I think this is a near essential expansion. It adds variety to the game. It adds a ton of different things to the experience. You can choose which modules you want to add. If you don't want the new leaders, you can go ahead and use the cards. Is it worth the price point for the cards alone? I guess it depends on how much you care about Lost Ruins of Arnak and what your opinion of it is, but it just gives you more stuff. If you don't need the more stuff, then, I mean, it's a cheap enough expansion. It's fairly reasonably priced. I think it's around 25 or something like that. But if you don't feel the need for anything more to Lost Ruins of Arnak experience, you could save your money. but I think this is one, to me this is an absolutely essential expansion, which I guess moves me to final thoughts and opinions, which is, to me, this is an absolutely essential expansion. This expansion just gives me more stuff to the game. I like having those things. I like the variety of extra cards. The research track is the thing that I care the least about. I like it, don't get me wrong. I'm happy I have that variety, but I never needed that. I was always fine with the research track, and I'm still fine with the basic research track, although, again, it's more variety in case you want it. But to me, the expedition leaders are the key. I would happily pay the expansion price alone just for the expedition leaders, for getting the research track, for getting the extra cards. These give me so many reasons to dive into the game. I want to try every single leader. I want to go through every single one multiple times, try different strategies. Lost Ruins of Arnak was already a game that I played a decent amount, and now I can dive into each of these leaders, trying new pathways, new strategies. Do I want to lean heavily into the research track while using the captain? Do I want to lean heavily into exploring the jungle while using the mystic? What about trying to just focus mostly on artifacts or all that while using the professor? There's a whole bunch of different ways you can try to combine different strategies with the characters, giving you a ton of variety to your experience. Lost Ruins of Arnak for me was already a 5 out of 5 for me, which means this expansion makes it better, so it gets my fictional rating that I say but I don't actually apply, which is a 5+ out of 5. Basically, when a game's a 5 out of 5 and an expansion makes it better, I give it a 5+. It still goes in my books as a 5, but I mean, I don't know how you really do that. This game is better. The game is better with the expansion. I don't think I'll ever play the base game alone, even for new players. There's not enough rules overhead. For new players, I may or may not add the research tracks. I probably would leave this alone, give them the new cards and the new leaders, have them pick a character, feel like they're learning that character, getting that character. I might caution them towards one or away from a character, depending on what they want. But overall, this expansion to me is absolutely essential, a must-have for Lost Ruins of Arnak fans. Until next time, I'm Alex Radcliffe from Board Game Co. I hope you found this helpful or useful in some way, and as always, have a good one.